Thank you. Back to our breaking news this morning. The International Olympic Committee has officially postponed the 2020 Tokyo Olympic Games, pushing them back to the summer of 2021. The Japanese Prime Minister said that he and IOC President Thomas Bach agreed on the postponement, saying, quote, "We had to think about the current outbreak of the coronavirus," end quote. The Tokyo Games were scheduled to be held from July 24th to August 9th. On that note, it's great to have Olympian Lolo Jones with us this morning. Lolo, let's get right into it here. What was your initial reaction when you heard that the Olympics would be postponed?
Well, today or yesterday, because we've heard it, we heard it unofficially yesterday, and we kind of knew it was kind of coming down the pipes, but we wanted that official statement because we've just been in a pressure cooker here. We've been trying to do our due diligence as citizens and self-quarantine, but then we've had this whole Olympic kind of moment waiting. And they're saying, stay ready, stay ready, stay ready. So we've been going out, still trying to find places to train. And it's just been a pressure cooker because, we should be inside of our houses trying to be safe and, not get the coronavirus.
Lolo, thank you for being on the show. What's been the most frustrating part of this whole process? One can only imagine, obviously, social distancing is of paramount importance, and we've heard the government and beyond preach ad nauseum about that. But as an Olympian, as an Olympic athlete, can you speak to some of the specific frustrations you all have been dealing with over the last couple of weeks?
I just think that there was just a lack of leadership. No clarity at all. So when this happened, you saw at first the NBA shut down. They shut their athletes down and didn't want to risk their health and the health of the global community. Well, Olympians were left in limbo for a very long time. And it became impossible. They started shutting down public places, so we had nowhere to train, yet we were still trying to find places to train. And we just had no direction. Like, okay, is this happening? Is it not happening? What are you guys talking about? What are your concerns? We were getting no information. So we were trying our best to continue to train in an environment that just became impossible.
Lolo, I heard you make mention of it, but you're into your 30s, well into your 30s now as an Olympic athlete. Your clock is ticking, and this postponement of a year probably doesn't do you any favors, and yet you've been advocating for this. Can you just tell us what it's like to be facing that reality and also have this come along at the same time?
Absolutely. I have a lot on the line. Not only was this my last push for Summer Olympics, I honestly don't know if my body has another year. Another thing you think about, I was going to maybe go back into bobsled because I know my body can handle that over like hurdles. But here's the situation. It was becoming dangerous and unsafe. Like, to go outside and continue to train in groups, there's no Olympian that trains by themselves. You have wrestlers that need sparring partners. You have gymnasts that need spotters. Even runners need to go out of blocks next to each other to be in Olympic-ready shape. And it just wasn't worth it. Why? Because we're dealing with a global pandemic. And for me to push for this, even though it goes directly against my chances, to have success next year, there's just bigger things to think about. Other things were happening is they stopped drug testing. How can you have a fair Olympic Games if you're not even drug testing the athletes the crucial months before the Olympic Games? There were so many reasons this Olympic Games needed to be postponed weeks ago, but they kept putting the athletes on ice. They kept putting a pressure cooker for us, where it was not only affecting our physical health. Athletes started to get the coronavirus. You saw an Olympic champion, Olympic swimmer, caught the virus because I don't know, it was just a pressure cooker environment. And I'm so glad it's official. Athletes can finally focus on their health.
Lolo, obviously you were willing to speak up about this issue, and major props to you for that. Carly was willing to speak up as well, but we haven't heard from a plethora of Olympic athletes out there willing to speak up and speak out, literally imploring the IOC to cancel the games or at least suspend or postpone the games. Could you explain to our audience why you believe that is the case, that you've heard so limited of voices out there from Olympians speaking out about this issue?
I'm just baffled. I couldn't understand it. And then I really just had to, I had plenty of time to think about it when she started going on self-quarantine. But I think it's because athletes just started to kick into their focus drive. They're trained to not deal with distractions, and that's how the best athletes make Olympic teams. That's how they push through, is by removing the distractions. So I think a lot of athletes just put their head down and was like, I'm just going to tell myself the Olympics is going to happen regardless, even if it means risking my health and safety, even if it means other athletes can't train and I have a competitive advantage and they're not being drug tested. I think athletes are just putting their head down and just trying to focus as best as they could.
Yep, we appreciate you being vocal, though, Lolo. This was such great perspective, and I feel like insight into what you all are going through right now during this difficult time. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, and thank you guys for talking about this message.
No problem.
Thank you. Stay safe there.
Great
Thank
to
you
hear
so
from you.
much. All right, happy 44th birthday to Peyton Manning today. The two-time Super Bowl champion will be featured tonight on ESPN 2 at 7 p.m. with a marathon of Manning content. Here's some reaction to where Manning ranks on the all-time quarterback list. Max, let's take a look at Manning compared to some of the top quarterbacks. I know how you feel about that bad man, Aaron Rodgers. We know how you feel about the Cliff. Give me your top 5 QBs of all time.
We're going top right now. Number 1 has to be Tom Brady, based on the longevity and then of the eventual heights he hit, for sure. On my list, I'm not going to go back to Unitas. I never saw him play. Terry Bradshaw, where the standards were different, was when I was much younger. I think Tom Brady replaced Joe Montana, because we're talking greatest now. Aaron Rodgers, he did not play for the same coach as those guys did, is not nearly as accomplished. His legacy isn't what theirs is, even if his peak is maybe higher. I think a lot of people have Peyton Manning or John Elway next or in there somewhere. And I'll just say about Peyton Manning, he's the greatest regular season player in the history of football. I don't really think it's that close. Regular season, no one had comparable value to Peyton. But his performance fell off enough under pressure that I can't put him third. And so third is, I really have my number 1 and 2. I think Aaron Rodgers, Peyton Manning, and I just mentioned, and John Elway. Have cases in the top 5. Yep.
Well, for me, it's obviously Tom Brady because of his accomplishments. I'm going to put Joe Montana up in there. Obviously, Joe Montana. Then you've got John Elway, Peyton Manning, of course. And I'm going to put that bad man, Aaron Rodgers. Ain't no way in hell I'm leaving him out of the top 5, and I'm going to repeat why, because people might have forgotten this. He's a bad man. Aaron Rodgers is special. He is the greatest athlete, the greatest talent at the quarterback position I've ever seen. Period. Okay, Patrick Mahomes is coming. I get it. Some people can say he's already there. But I'm telling you right now, I'm just saying I need the longevity. You got this year, last year, the previous year, 50 touchdowns, 24 touchdown drop-off this year. But he's still Patrick Mahomes. He's big time. But the resume needs to be longer. But in terms of consistency, sustainability, accomplishments, etc., Aaron Rodgers, from a talent perspective at the quarterback spot, there's no way in hell he's not top 5. Peyton Manning, like you said, Max, greatest regular season quarterback. Joe Montana and Tom Brady are the creme de la creme, and John Elway's there. Notice I don't have Brett Favre in my top 5. Why? Because he ain't Aaron Rodgers. That's why. Now, Drew Brees, I say this respectfully, because I'd even put Drew Brees ahead of Brett Favre. Yes, I would, because he didn't make as many mistakes, okay? He didn't throw 336 interceptions. Drew Brees, he's up there. But Aaron Rodgers is in my top 5. And then, of course, based on resume, Elway, Peyton Manning, Montana, and Brady.
One thing about Brett Favre, Patrick Mahomes, even though he's really Aaron Rodgers, maybe 2.0, he may just be an improvement on Aaron Rodgers, which is saying a lot. Okay. But he has given me a renewed kind of an appreciation for Brett Favre. There was something when your eyes were on Brett Favre that was electric in a way that really no one else was. You could say Marino early on, but he never won the Super Bowl. Favre, there was something about him. And Mahomes, to me, has a lot of things. His arm reminds me more of Favre's than of Rodgers, but of course he doesn't turn the ball over like Favre. So he in a way, you could say he's Aaron Rodgers 2.0 or maybe Brett Favre 2.0. But it's renewed my appreciation for Favre. I agree, Favre's not in my top 5, but barely. He was something else.
Yeah, I respect
Happy
him.
birthday,
Top 10,
Peyton
but he
Manning.
top 5.
Stephen A., we've been heavy, obviously, on the Olympics with the breaking news today and a lot of NFL regarding free agency, but let's not forget about the NBA. I know Mark Cuban has recently spoken about what's going on. What's your take on what Cuban had to say?
I'm excited about it because he's talking about the possibility of games returning in mid-May, albeit probably, not likely, not definitely, but probably without fans in attendance. But the bottom line is we're so desperate, we're so starving for action, for something to cheer about, for meaningful competition to take place and to cheer on, etc., that if we have to take NBA games without the fans in attendance, but it's on camera, it's on television, we'll take that in a heartbeat. So the fact that Mark Cuban, with his brilliant self, put that out there and he leaned on the leadership of Adam Silver, who was ahead of the curve in all of this. I like it. I'm hopeful that he's absolutely right on the money. It certainly elevates our level of hope as it pertains to still having some semblance of an NBA season. I spoke to a couple of owners. They're like, listen, in order to not lose money, we're going to have a few regular season games. We'll see if that happens, but they are definitely going all out to make sure that they have some semblance of a season by mid-May, and I'm very, very hopeful.
Yeah. I've changed my position on this. Remember a couple days ago, Stephen A., I was saying, and last week it looks to me like there will be no NBA regular season, probably no playoffs. I've changed because I've heard from enough people now. There are certain benchmarks in terms of television games, especially for local rights, that you have to hit in order to get paid. So this unites everyone. Adam Silver, the Players Association, everyone, the teams, they all want to get paid. So the good news is not only will we get playoffs, but it looks likely regular season games in some form before the beginning of next season, which is fine with me. I'll take the NBA any way I can get it.
No question. And I'm very much looking forward to this, guys. Next on SportsCenter, I'm certainly going to sit tight here. My girl, Elle Duncan, will have the coverage. We're going to have Brady's teleconference live. Brady will be speaking for the first time. He'll be introduced as a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. That is next live on SportsCenter here on ESPN. We'll see you back here tomorrow on First Take. Thanks for being with us.
This